Square Ball Podcast.
Phil Hay, you're off.
Yes. I'm leaving you cow.
Is this gloves off now then? Yeah, it's coming to an end. 18 years covering Leeds United. Why do you get to escape and we don't?
I suspect it probably doesn't come as a surprise to you guys. You know me a bit better than most people. And it's been coming down the track a little bit since I shifted to the slightly different role at the Athletic. It's kind of a big call because I've been doing it for a very long time and much longer than I ever expected, which, you know, really means that at the outset, I never expected to write about Leeds ever, let alone for 18 seasons. And even when I got into the job back in 2006, did not expect the best part of 2 decades to be spent doing this. But it's been fantastic. It's also taken me to my mid-40s and very much a point where I'm thinking time for a change is not a bad thing. Go before you're completely pushed and run out of town. And as I said in my piece on Wednesday, if people aren't sick of me, then they probably should be by now. The time's right for me. I don't think it's a bad thing for me to have a change. Don't think it's bad for you guys to get a different voice covering this.
Well, can we be the decision makers on that? Not you.
You can be. There will definitely be periods where I get withdrawal symptoms from this, and it's most likely to be if and when Leeds get themselves back into the promotion picture and do good things. But there is part of me after so many games, it's been more than 1,000 between everything, that will not necessarily miss that Tuesday drive to Swansea, Plymouth, Portsmouth.
Give it a year's time, we'll be back. Unfinished business. I had this conversation with my granddad.
I've put on £20.
Yeah, I have faith in you to do that.
Yeah, that last bit I can definitely deliver on. Yeah, I'll be back begging you for a slot in about 3 months' time.
No, it's been great fun, Phil, and I've worked out that I was back running the numbers, and you've done 18 years. And it turns out we've done 4.5 of this from when we started the Phil Hay Show. So we've been there for exactly a quarter of it. It's just been so much fun, hasn't it? And I hope, and I say that not to be self-indulgent, but just to say I hope that's come through on the shows that we've done. Whether you agree with the nonsense that we've said or not, it's just been such a laugh. And I've enjoyed this, like, on a professional front as much as anything I've ever done.
Oh, this has been absolutely ace. And it's also... It takes you to like irreverent places that you can't always go with what you're writing, stroke the sort of border of libel law and defamation, which is equally good. But it's different this to writing, and it's a totally different audience to what we have at the Athletic. And I think it is your really, really hardcore Leeds supporters who do listen to this and do follow this. And it's been grand. And I think, like, you guys understand the club inside out and you know the game inside out. And it's just made it really easy to chat on. And I will definitely miss this. Yeah. But there must be some people out there who are ready for me to sort it off, you know.
Yeah, but you've been a constant.
There should be.
But I was thinking about this, and I was thinking back to the time that you've been on this show as well. And I didn't realise, I looked back on the dates of release for the Phil Hay Show, which was out on the Athletic first of all. And it was November 2019 that we kicked this off. Mm-hmm. So only a few months after you joined the Athletic, because you went that summer, didn't you? And I didn't realise we'd kind of seen your entire tenure. I thought it had come in sometime after that. And I didn't realise it was pre-pandemic either, just with all the stuff that's kind of gone on. And at that time, I was in such a deep hole at that time because I'd just been made redundant. My money was running out, carrying tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt. The square ball wasn't a proper thing yet. And that came along, and I was pretty desperate, to be perfectly honest, at that time. It wasn't
you didn't transmit that, you know.
No, I know.
You're very cool about it.
I know, and it needed to work, and that show was part of it as well. It was a massive part of it. So thank you for giving us your time as well. I'm not just here to blow smoke up your ass, but
no, definitely don't.
But we don't
definitely
often, as blokes sitting in a room together and doing podcasts that are about football, which is just daft and silly. We don't often get a chance to be sincere. So I do genuinely want to say thanks. It's been an absolute privilege. It's been such a laugh.
The same, and I wouldn't want anybody to think that I'm going from this job because I'm totally sick of it or because I haven't appreciated being able to do it for so long. I just think it's that thing of eventually you realise that you're not 25 anymore. And I do think this is quite a young person's game, like 50 games a season home and away. And it's not like I'm in my 60s, though I do
look across the table.
Even though some people think I do look 60, it's definitely caught up with me this year in terms of coping as well with the travelling and the demands of being home and away so much. Kids are growing up. Kids are starting to get to the age where they're a bit like, you're away again this weekend. Although when I'm not away this weekend again, we'll soon see how we all get on, whether we rub along together. But it's been great. And the more I've thought about it, it's kind of weird because I had zero connection to Leeds at all before I started covering the club, apart from having moved to the city after being at university. And no expectation at all of doing them for as long as I have. And I think part of that is when you're young, you know what it's like. People who sort of go after careers have it in their heads that they'll jump from job to job because you'll ideally do well in one and then you get promoted, or you'll get something else that's better or pays more money. And then you get this far down the line and it's what you've been doing for basically your entire adult life. But I think the thing about Leeds is there aren't many clubs where I think you could do 20 years now on and enjoy 20 years. There's always something going on here. Pretty ludicrous.
Yeah. I mean, we've exchanged messages before in the past saying, why are they like this?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
What are they doing? How did they ever? I think you summed it up really well, actually, in your farewell article that you put on The Athletic, which is where it's words to the effect of, and I am paraphrasing, but there's a clear path through things, but Leeds always go for the minefield. Yeah, when there's a minefield to explore, and I love that because that is Leeds United in a nutshell. And
the thing is, I know a lot of clubs and fan bases sort of say that, we never do things the easy way and this, that and the other, but it's so much more pronounced and it's so much more true round here. The playoffs, we said before the playoffs, everybody's really scared of them because Leeds just don't win them. And lo and behold, and if there was a complex before Wembley and Southampton, it's even worse now. So if it was to end up being the playoffs next season, you just revert back to that thing of this is where we get done and this is where it just all goes horribly wrong. And there's no real way of explaining it. I mean, part of the reason why Leeds have been a mess and a bit of a, kind of mad case is because of the people who've run the club and because of what they've attracted and because of what happened post Ridsdale. But there is still that weirdly intangible, inherent thing, which is like, if it's going to go wrong anywhere, it's going to go wrong here. And that is, in a weird way, what makes you quite affectionate about Leeds and makes them very lovable, I think, is that it's not just
lovable idiots, almost.
Well, it's not just like glitz and glamour and gloss all over the place, is it? It is like Ellen Road falling apart, and it is a club who can't ever quite get it together, despite the fact that they should be so much more. They should be so much bigger than they are when it comes to where they are in the global game, if you know what I mean. Like, they're just not designed or made to be floating around in the Championship. But that's football, and that's the way it goes. And to a large degree, not the supporters, but the club itself, what they've had over the last 20 years is what they've deserved. They've walked into a lot of this and they've asked for it. But I've constantly felt sorry for the people in the thousands who stick with this regardless of what goes on. I do think there are other clubs who would have shed a lot of fans through the past 20 years because a lot of the time, what was there to cling to? And while aspects of Chileno or GFH or whatever else might be quite funny in a gallows humour way, once you've had years and years of it, it stops becoming funny, doesn't it?
It was the grind to 15th. Yeah,
it was the grind to the point where it had to be something like Bielsa because you just needed something magical to pay off the debt of 15 years of shambles.
Yeah. Yeah, it's addictive, isn't it? And I know you love your train. It's your train spotting references. Being from Edinburgh as you are, you will appreciate the reference. But it is Leeds United is like heroin, isn't it? It's terrible for your health, but you always keep coming back for more. I was chatting about this to the office the other day. I was saying this is a time to enact my plan to do a match report based purely on train spotting gifts. Because somebody said to me when the next time, an obviously anti-Leeds referee doesn't book something, you just use Begbie's "Have you brought the cards?" Yeah, and so on all the way through. But that film kind of quite suits Leeds, I think, in a strange sort of way. It's hard to leave behind, and I know you've written in your farewell piece about it's almost insulting to call Leeds a second club because nobody who supports Leeds wants to have Leeds as a second club, but you are in your own unique kind of arm's length journalistic way. You're still one of us. Well, it's quite hard to imagine not paying any attention to it, put it that way. I couldn't just draw a line and say, right. I mean, there will be some stuff that goes on at Leeds that I'll no longer be particularly interested in. But the actual performance of the club and where it goes, definitely. I mean, I think it's quite important for me to just kind of disappear now for a good while, particularly to let Nancy, who's coming in, just crack on, have a clear run without me getting in the road. But there will come stages of the season where I'm quite tempted to wangle freebies in the press box. And get down and see what's going on, particularly if
it's going well, which I genuinely think it will. I mean, my first season was relegation to League One and insolvency, and without sort of pushing my jinx reputation too far, I suspect that isn't going to happen this season.
Well, you came in on a playoff final defeat and you leave on a playoff final defeat, but we'll talk about that a little bit more elsewhere. But yeah, you definitely are. I think you're one of us. It's difficult when you're a journalist, isn't it? Because you have to remove yourself from it to a certain extent, but you can't follow a club up and down the country for 18 years and not become immersed in it and it not become part of your soul and your identity.
I think you've got to immerse yourself in it. I think you've got to try and be objective about it, but I think you have to do what supporters seem to be very good at doing with Leeds, which is to be supportive of the club, or at least to see the good aspects of the club, but within the confines of Leeds, to be critical of them as well. I've always found that with the support, they don't like to be told by other people that the club's shit or the club's this, that and the other. But if you get them in amongst Leeds fans, they're not in any way deluded about what's going on. I think as critical as anybody else about the way the club's run, about certain players and managers, the way they're performing. It can be really sort of brutally honest, which it kind of needs to be. But you've got to have a bit of love and passion for what you're doing. Otherwise, what's the point?
We get a bit of that as well when, essentially, if your opinion doesn't match up entirely with some people's, they will be very annoyed about it. Either you're being too critical, or you're not being critical enough, or you're not telling it like it is, or you need to be harsher on this person or this person, or you need to pull back on your attack on this person. Well, it's just kind of what I think.
It's just a thought, and it's only football. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But that said, our whole identity is wrapped up in it as well, aren't they?
Do you know what? People have always been massively fair with me, though. They've been really, really good to me. And I say this all the time, and you should always say this. Like, it is good to be criticised sometimes, and it is good for people to point out what you're doing wrong or what you should do better or what you might want to think about. And I think
you should stop your newsletter, Phil.
You think so? Right. I'll report back as soon as we stop.
It's doomed to failure. You should stick with Leeds.
This is what I've been told. Yeah. Yeah, I'll pass that on. But because you don't get everything right, and there will have been times when I've been unfair to people, and I do, and without thinking of specific instances, I do regret when that's happened because you don't intentionally want to do it. There are people that I definitely wasn't unfair on, and I'm not sorry about that at all. Like a lot of people get paid a lot of money in football. A lot of people get a lot of prestige and profile in football. Some of them are just not deserving of either the positions they have or the chances they get at clubs. Some of them don't perform to high enough level.
Does Jesse Marsh have a message still, or is he?
I haven't not heard from Jesse for a long time. Mind you, he's in Canada now, isn't he? So busy.
Time zones as
busy.
Well.
Yeah. But I was on Radio Leeds on Thursday with OEP, old Adam Pope, and don't worry, I know he's got perfect BBC persona in public, but he knows how to look after himself on WhatsApp, so it's fine. I'll be hearing from him. But he was asking, about the best moment covering them. And weirdly, actually, one of the nights that goes right to the top is the Warrington-Selby fight, which was not football, but it was just like a properly unique occasion. And there was a lot of Leeds United involved in that.
Was that at Leeds Arena?
It was at Ellen Road.
Oh,
the Selby fight, yeah, the big Ellen Road fight. And that was a massively unique event for Ellen Road to hold. It was amazing to be involved in that. But the standout moment is Hernandez at Swansea, always. And I was saying to Popey, like, the goal itself, obviously, the timing of it and what you knew it was going to mean, even for all of us, you thought, right, from here it's actually borderline impossible to make a mess of this. Like, this is going to happen. But because it was COVID, all the players were spread out through the stands in the way that subs used to have to be, sitting like 3 or 4 seats apart. So they were right in front of us in the press box. And when Hernandez scored, Berardi ran down the steps and onto the pitch and went up to the corner flag. You had Melee coming up the pitch, obviously, as well. Went up to the corner flag, tried to strangle Bamford. And I think what you realised in that moment was how much it really meant to them and how invested they were, and also how much they'd all raised their individual performance levels because of Bielsa, but also because of themselves and their kind of willingness to do it, to get to that level. And you realised how much promotion was going to mean. You realised how much they understood how much it was going to mean to the club and the support as well, particularly because it hadn't happened for such a long time. And you kind of looked to them and you thought, that's a squad that you'll always respect. Probably, actually, when it comes to it, more than any other that I've watched. In fact, easily more than any other than I watched. It's not to say I haven't rated other players or other squads, but that was the best of the bunch by a mile. Because that's what they put into it, and because they deserved to be there, and because they'd actually delivered something, which I don't think, well, I say hasn't happened enough. I mean, quite obviously hasn't happened enough over 20 years. That was really special.
Okay, then. If you could go back and write one article now from your whole 18 years about Leeds United, what would it be about, and when is it from?
Wow, there's a question. It probably would be about that. Yeah, it probably would be about that Swansea trip. It was a weird day all round because it was an early start, as I recall. So it was a long drive down to Swansea. There was nobody there. Absolutely nobody there. Nobody there when the goal went in. Nobody there straight after the game because everybody had to clear off really quickly. And obviously when you came home, you kind of thought to yourself, people would have been borderline out on the streets for that sort of thing because it was kind of right there. And it was, of all the time when we've covered football, same for you guys, that is by a mile the weirdest period of it because the whole thing just felt completely shut down. And it is a big shame in the sense that nobody was able to properly experience it as they should have done. But at the same time, it does make it kind of unique, doesn't it? It's kind of like a promotion that's never going to be the same ever again, no matter how it's done or whatever happens to the players that are involved. Like that was just of its own moment and of its own time. It
was a weirdly focused time as well because basically you couldn't do anything else that was fun.
No.
So essentially watching Leeds was the fun bit you got to do. It's like this is the only bit of leisure time in a week, essentially, where you're not just plodding around the same bit of park over and over again or doing a bit of work or looking after the kids or that sort of stuff. And it was like, this is leisure time as far as I'm concerned for the next God knows how long it's going to be.
And also it was just bang, 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 game after game after game. And I know like you have periods in December and January, February where it feels a little bit like that. But it was game after game at a point where there was so much on the line and so much at stake. And it was just, actually, I don't think at the time when Leeds scored that goal, I appreciated how good a goal it was because all you were looking for was ball in the net. That was kind of all that mattered. But every time I watched that, the whole flow and move is brilliant. It's not the best finish, but it was actually perfectly placed. And I suppose, all things being equal, you'd have to put it down as the best goal they ever scored under Bielsa.
If you could sum up your time covering Leeds in 3 words, go on.
Absolutely fucking mental. It has been. It has been. It's right from the start, really. And I say that I've said this a few times on this show, but my sports editor used to joke with me and say, "You must think Europe is somewhere down about Gillingham or Millwall because it's the only place you ever go." And you know, this club that had been in the Champions League, I sort of inherited to write about, and we're just never near that ever. As I say, it was insolvency year 1. It was 3 years in League One. It was Bates, it was GFH, it was Cellino, it was Radrizzani as it went to begin with, and then you got Bielsa. There's never really been. There've been times where the football's been a bit pointless and it's been going nowhere, and you could see, you know, what you're saying about the grind to 15th. Most seasons where you thought, well, this isn't going to deliver anything. But there was never really a time where it was quiet. I can't think of one stage of the past 18 years where you've kind of thought, there's not really anything going on here. It's just, you know, just plodding along in the way that some clubs do. Never like that.
The Square Ball Podcast.